Hey, everybody. Welcome to Horner's Corner. My name is Mark Horner. Horner's Corner is part of my YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is Beyond 90 Seconds. Oftentimes we have a guest. That is not the case tonight, but we do have a topic. And I think I'll start with a question. And that would be, what is it you're prioritizing with your time right now? Odds are you're making very good decisions. I can't speak for you, but I know for me, I try to make good decisions in prioritizing how I spend my time, especially balancing work and family, hobbies, and side jobs and interests. But every once in a while, I need some fine tuning or a wake up call. And I guess I got is it too extreme to say a cold splash of water this week? So I've recalibrated, and I'm going to share it with you. I was told that some of the details of this, it's the type of information that people would want to hear about, and it's interesting. So I'll go ahead and share a bit more of the personal with you today and be fully transparent, and hopefully there's a connection. And if it helps somebody out there or is a nice nudge or a reminder for time management, which sounds kind of technical and less personal than it really is, because I think it really is a personal thing, those types of decisions that we make. If it impacts somebody in a positive way, even serves as a nice reminder, that's all good. That'll have made this worthwhile. And I guess the Google and YouTube analytics will tell me whether or not there's much interest in this approach. But here goes. So way back in 1999, I started my first website. And I did it when I was on AOL.com. And I used AOL to download what you see is what you get editor. And it was called Hot Dog Express. And it allowed me to make a website. And that was really important to me at the time because I was working as a news reporter, and I had a story that I was just burning to tell, a story that got a little bit of interest in the newsroom and allowed me to do a few stories here and there, very light, but not exploit the potential that I saw in that story. It was a story that I was convinced was going to make national and international news one day. It was just a matter of time. And I needed an outlet. So I became consumed by my dial-up internet at the time and learned how to make a website through a simple drag and drop editor. And that website became a really great tool in many ways. It got me, it attracted people who became sources. One of the sources was from Malaysia. I got an email one night and it said, "Thank you so much for your website. It is our family's sole conduit to information about our beloved Gurley's case." Gurley was the name of the woman who had gone missing and was presumed murder. And she was from Malaysia and she disappeared in New Mexico. And the police, the investigators, they all became very invested in my website. In fact, one day as the years went by, because the case took years, the prosecutor told me that the website actually helped keep the case alive in the prosecutor's office when a new district attorney, who was not a big fan of the resources that the case was taking from the state. But yeah, the prosecutor told me that the website helped keep the case alive. And he told me that again just recently. So this was, 22 years ago almost, because she disappeared in September of 1999. And as I worked on that website, as the years went by, I remember after like a year or two, I went from that drag and drop editor to something called Adobe PageMail 3.0. It wasn't the simple drag and drop, but it wasn't very complicated either. But I upped my game in my mind. And eventually that website became the focal point of the conversation on Court TV, if you remember Court TV. And I was a guest a few times, and I was one of their talking heads that they had come up during a week-long period of trial coverage on this trial. And one day the website got 30,000 views. I remember that. That was kind of a big deal for me. In time, I started another website called beyond90seconds.com. This channel is Beyond 90 Seconds. And I started a website, but this time I started it on WordPress.com at the time. And after 2 or 3 years there, I wanted more control. And so I learned how to self-host. And I self-hosted Beyond90seconds.com. And with more control comes more responsibility, because you don't have as strong of a fence around your website protecting it, unless you take the unless you are deliberate in making sure you take the steps to do so. Well, years went by, and I have to tell you, there were years of blogging. In 2008 in particular, because in 2008, at the beginning of the year, I turned down a contract extension. My contract was up with a TV station, and I turned down an extension because I wanted three things, and they weren't going to give me any of them. So for the first time in my broadcast career, I stood my ground. It was really semi-terrifying, but I didn't. So they didn't cave either. So I didn't stay with that station. And I applied for a job, and this was 2008, in the audiovisual department at the University of Arizona. And I was a finalist for that job, and I felt like I had that job. I had the best recommendation. I thought there was no way somebody was going to top my recommendation, and I had a really good interview. But the hiring process kept on delaying and delaying and delaying, and ultimately, as the months went by, they decided, because of the economy in 2008, that they weren't going to fill the position after all. Well, I had not been very proactive in my job search, thinking I was going to get that one, really holding out hope. So it probably wasn't the wisest mind or approach that I took. But during that time, I blogged like a fiend, and I was blogging hard news stories. And there were three stories. And this isn't simply a case of a guy off in the corner, doing the gumshoe, really low level stuff, repeating what's out there. I was breaking some news along the way. And the three stories there was a story about a young woman who was murdered in Santa Monica, California, named Juliana Redding. And she had been a Maxim model, but she was from Tucson, and I was living in Tucson at the time. And that was a very interesting and mysterious case. And I was kind of on a leading edge in terms of what information was getting out there. It was hard to get any information off the internet because the investigation was so tight. The information wasn't getting out. But I pushed and got some good stuff out there. Another one was about a high school junior football running back with a seemingly lot of potential in football. He was just gunned down in cold blood while returning home from the mall, just got off the bus and was almost home, and he was gunned down on the sidewalk. His father inside the house heard the gunshot, and he was his name was Jamil Shah, or Jamil Shah Jr., and his case has since become well known nationally, if not internationally. His mother, at the time he was shot and killed for no reason, was off in Iraq serving her country here, serving America's interests. And thirdly, the biggest story that I covered was about a so-called religious cult in northern New Mexico called the Lord Our Righteousness Church, led by a man named Michael Trevesser. And Mr. Trevesser had been accused and ultimately was convicted of indecent liberties, touching inappropriately of underage girls. And that group had a very interesting history that started in Idaho, went into Arizona, outside of Yuma, in the middle of the desert, in a place called Castle Dome, ultimately landing in northern New Mexico. And I had quite a following on beyond90seconds.com. I covered that very intensely, and I was interviewing, had direct pipelines with the members of Our Righteousness Church, as well as people who had produced mainstream media in England, predominantly a guy named Ben Anthony, who produced a documentary for National Geographic. So this is what consumed my time. So I share all of this with you to let you know that a lot of time and travel and heart and thoughtfulness and research went into Beyond 90 Seconds. Ultimately, I returned to Washington State in 2008. And after a few years, there came a point where my blog went through what was for me a traumatic thing. And this is the first point where if you have a blog or a website, take note. If you probably already have taken good steps in this regard, but I hadn't. I had changed along the way, hosting companies. And I went with a company that I believe is called Blue Layer Media. You haven't heard of them, I'm sure. Well, they ended up getting hacked and wiped clean. It turned out Blue Layer Media were two guys who'd gone to college. They'd always given me good support, They were business partners, but they had gotten hacked and everything was wiped clean. Everything was lost. And if you're a blogger or you have a website, you want to make sure that you do regular backups. And I hadn't. Although I had the majority of what I had published, I didn't have it all. And because I had been so prolific, there was a lot that was missing. And so I used archive.org, the Wayback Machine, and was able to salvage a good deal of stuff. And along the way, I rebuilt pages and I got the right dates on them, but the file structure, it turns out, is different in the URLs. I won't go too deep into all of that, but there are now inconsistencies in beyond90seconds.com in that regard, and that affects links. And that brings to my point. What have I been doing lately? Well, I wanted to go in and I wanted to fix all of the broken links and make Beyond 90 Seconds, bring it back into ship-shape form. And I didn't want to let go of all that long ago work because I still feel like it has usefulness for people. And I'm proud of that work, a lot of it. And you'll find some stuff I've done over the recent months or years that's pretty light. It's not the deep end of the pool, so to speak, when it comes to crime and investigations. It's more light feature type stuff. So I started, I installed a plugin, and it allows me to identify broken links. And there were over 1,000, in fact, there were 1,062 broken links. And I aim to go in and fix them. Well, that's a very tedious process. And so I was kind of doing this mind-numbing work at night, hours going by. This is not a one-night job. This is not multiple nights. This is a commitment. And because I wanted to see if I could find, a lot of the links are external news sources. And those stories, some of them are, from 2008, 2007 even. And they're not even in the Wayback Machine. Some are, though. And if I could preserve them, I thought, well, I'll link to the Wayback Machine, blah, blah, blah. And then on top of that, my pages are referring to other posts or categories, but the link structure changed. So therefore, people get what's called a 404 error. A lot of stuff to fix. So you've heard, many of you who watch regularly, you've heard me talk about Office Hours, Alec Lindsay's group. They're a wonderful group of people with all sorts of expertise in different areas. A lot of it is aimed at live streaming and broadcast, graphics, video, but very, very helpful community. You've heard me talk about them in the past if you've watched Horner's Corner. And they have since evolved to where they're basically live streaming 24/7. There's the 2-hour Office Hours show on YouTube and Zoom. And then the other 22 hours of every day and night, there's After Hours. And you can just kind of drop in informally, listen to it like a podcast or a radio show, or talk as well and participate actively that way. It's a great group. So I've started joining After Hours from time to time. And knowing that one of the gentlemen there, Ken Jordan in England, I believe Ken's in London, I just happened to share with Ken during this After Hours meeting a night or two ago, hey, Ken, I know you're really big on working in WordPress. I just thought I'd share. I'm in the business of fixing broken links now, about over 1,000 of them. And Ken looked at me and he listened to me go on about it. And he said, you don't want to go there. You don't want to do that. Because Ken fully understands what a rabbit hole that can be. And he's like, all that time that you're spending doing that, you could be producing something now. And I just want to take a quick time out because I do see there is some. Let's see here. Ted says, I was an intern at the DA's office with Paul Spears in that case. Oh, he's referring to the Hasenkopf case. That's when I started my story in my website in 1999. That's fascinating to hear, Ted. Thanks for sharing that. And on the Zoom chat, there are some comments going there. Well, thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. And thank you, Janine, for joining as well. So what Ken said to me really resonated because I had to ask myself, why am I prioritizing fixing all of that old content? And at first blush, the answers seemed immediate and obvious, but they weren't. What I wanted to say, what I knew was on the front of my brain was I wanted to make it a really healthy, fast site so that Google will give it good, I want to optimize it so that Google ranks it higher. And I was really seriously considering doing Google Analytics, or not Google Analytics, Google AdSense. In all of my content that I've produced on my various websites over the years, I've only rarely used Google AdSense specifically. And it made a bit of money on Beyond 90 Seconds. And I was thinking about doing that. And I voiced that to Ken as well. And he goes, no. Just nobody really, that's more bloat, and people really don't appreciate it. Do you like going through all those ads? And I knew in my heart of hearts, Ken was right. But again, what was the why? Why was I busying myself with this mindless work? Well, that's just kind of robotic. I could watch online streams and listen to conversations and do this mindless work of fixing links. When I could be spending that time doing something more, publishing new content or doing something with my kids, right? Or my family, And here's the truth of it, being fully transparent. I think I've been a little bit afraid of putting myself out there in a specific way. And that is, I want to start a side business, and it's Beyond 90 Seconds LLC. I've even got the business license to move forward. I want to do consulting and consulting and coaching. And that's what I think I was putting off. And I've talked in the past about doing these live streams on Zoom and just, failing forward is the popular term, and I'm totally cool with that. And so I've been doing that, but in the area where I've been really gun shy is in the area of consulting and coaching, knowing full well that I have expertise that I do know would help some people, that there's value in it. And I have people telling me that all the time. And the areas would be, there'd be a variety of areas, but one area could be making people, how to do a good interview, how to put people at ease, how to produce training videos, how to write for news, how to write for training work. I produce training videos that cover everything from, the motorcycle skills test in Washington State to diversity, equity, and inclusion. You name it. I can boil it down to simple language. It lands easily on the ear, knit it together with a firm, good script and good processes that incorporate, the people that we need buy-off from to arrive through a good, healthy process, not only to cross finish lines in a timely way, but to exceed expectations. So there's that. There's voiceover that I could help with and things like that. Writing a true crime book, because I ultimately, because of that website, it helped me get a deal with Kensington Publishing in New York to write a true crime book, which I did. So there are things that where I can help people. But that's a new way of putting myself out there that I haven't done so much in the past. In fact, where I thrived in a newsroom was oftentimes, there's a term in newsrooms in the morning meetings or the afternoon meetings where the whole newsroom comes together and what are we going to do for the next broadcast, the next newscast, or dare I use the word show? And you bring your ideas to the table, you're expected to do that and pitch them and sell them. And I was really good at coming up with exclusives and selling stories, which were, when you bring these stories to the table and they're not rip and reads out of a newspaper, but original stories, which is what you ideally want, those are called enterprise stories, enterprise stories. And I could really sell them and do them. And the truth is, and I've never said this out loud to people beyond friends and stuff, I've always had a great ability to sell a story or an idea, but I've had a hard time selling myself. There the words just came out, and that's the truth. So I'm going to be dedicated to stepping up my game and confidence in that area and continue to push forward with this YouTube channel, which those of you who follow me, you've seen push over the last several months with this YouTube channel. And my analytics are reflecting that. It's not a big subscription base yet, but it's growing. And for me, I'm going from 20 subscribers a month to 40 plus subscribers a month over the last few months. So that's been really kind of cool to see that return of investment on the effort, because you have to be focused on it. So I share all that because I appreciate what Ken Jordan said to me. it did land kind of like a splash of cold water, and it was nothing, there was nothing mean about it or anything like that. It wasn't like the ruthless reviews that are done on office hours. It was just wisdom, one person to another, from a person I highly respect because he's very familiar with the WordPress rabbit holes, if you will. And so I just wanted to be fully transparent and share that with you. A lot of times people, we can get on YouTube and we can tout and we can talk about our past and what we've done. And we probably seem like we have it all together. And we, because we've had some success, that it's like that all the time, and it's not. And everybody's human. Everybody has those moments where we waver or derail even, and we can get back up and get back on. But focus, I think, is so important, and prioritizing. We can be focused, but are we focused on the right thing? Dare I ask you, listening or watching, the things that you're focusing on beyond your immediate work, if you've got work, are you focused on the right things? Are you prioritizing the right things? The one thing I do know as I get older, and my kids, my first two are very much adults now, is time does go by quickly, doesn't it? And I'm reminded of going to a memorial service a few years ago for a friend who I went to high school with. Unfortunately, her daughter died. And my friend's father, who's in his 70s now, was talking about how quickly it all goes by and how everything's suddenly in the rearview mirror, just like that. So it's really important that if we're going to really focus hard on something, we make sure that we're focused on the right things. And that's it. That's all I have. I don't know if that's going to resonate with anybody who's watching this now or perhaps on the rebroadcast, but that's what I wanted to bring to the table and share with you here on Horner's Corner tonight. So yeah, no guest, but you got some insights for me. I'd like to take a moment to see if there's anything in the chat here, both on YouTube. Ted says, I have that book. So Ted in the YouTube chat is referring to September Sacrifice, I believe, is the book you're referring to. That's the book I wrote about the Hasenkopf case. So if you worked with Paul, Jack Burkhead, Nancy, and Julie Altweiss. They were all wonderful people from the prosecutor's office at that time. Paul Spears, the prosecutor in the case, is now with the Attorney General's office, as I'm sure you know. Adam writes, failing forward, while great of itself and learning from mistakes, can also become a trap, a blanket for people who sometimes choose not to look where their feet are or look ahead to where they want to step next and lead along the way. It's also learning and advancing from life's little accidents, but not always to wrap in the blanket in a way it over prioritizes, encapsulating things in this way. So very interesting, Adam. And I guess what we want to make sure is that we don't say, yeah, failing forward is cool. Let's thrust ourselves out there in reckless abandonment. No, we want to own some responsibility. We want to think about what we're going to say before we present, because we want to value people's time, right? We want to continue to hone what it is we do so that people can hopefully see that there's been some thought and work invested in the request of your time, because Adam, you've spent several minutes here already, and that's very gracious of you to spend your time watching this video, this live stream. Tom is here from Whidbey Island, and let's see. So how about you guys, before I wrap it up, you can do it here, or if you would like to just put it in the comments later, that's fine. Or if you're watching the replay, do you like these more type of transparent, like what's on the mind, what kind of struggles or battles or techniques might one use to help move a project forward? Or, it could be YouTube itself, it could be live streaming. This is kind of a different level than what we've done in the past here on Horner's Corner, but I'm happy to share. I'm happy to be transparent, and if it helps others. And I've been the beneficiary of so much that's been shared online over many years, including very much so with regular healthy feasts of knowledge from the people on office hours. And Adam says, but I also agree with Ken that you have lots of amazing things to do and grow with in the future. Right on. Okay. Thank you, Adam. So this is probably going to be the shortest Horner's Corner of them all. This is number 13. We do these on Thursday nights, and they typically go for anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. And I want to respect your time. Thank you very much, Kenneth. I appreciate that, Kenneth Jones. Appreciate it. And just so you guys know, at least for, I would say, another week, I'll continue using Zoom webinar, which affords me the opportunity, if you guys want to get here early and be on the panel, I've made that opportunity available. And sometimes people do jump on 2 or 3 at a time. I think it's probably been our biggest. It's not like some other groups where they get, 12 or more people. But I've enjoyed those moments where people, that was the idea here, was to try, much like office hours, is to try and build a community. And that's what I'm going to keep striving for. And, again, fully transparent, I've told myself I'll do this for 6 months is what I've told myself. We'll see how it goes doing Horner's Corner for 6 months and see if it gets any traction. Thank you very much again for coming by and checking out this live stream. And thank you, those who are watching the replay. I really appreciate it. Stay safe and take care, everybody. Until next time, so long.